So today let's make some falafels. What are these falafels? They are these tiny little chickpea fritters and they're deep fried, so they're very tasty. Also, they're had across the Mediterranean and the Middle East, and there's no fixed time. So people have it for breakfast, lunch, dinner. There's even as a snack, and you can have it in a variety of ways. So there's something called a shamoun, which, there are small tiny falafels that go into a sandwich. You've also seen a regular falafel wrap, which I'll be making in one of these episodes. Finally, there's an additional bonus. It is completely vegan. So let's get started. So to make falafels, we need some chickpeas. These chickpeas have been soaked overnight, and this is it. We don't cook them any further. And if you split them open, you'll see they are still a little raw inside, and that is what is going to provide that amazing crunchy texture to our falafels. Here I have some coriander, and traditionally you'll add some parsley, but I think coriander adds a more fresh flavor to falafels. I have one whole shallot, and I'm going to use the entire shallot, some garlic, these are about 7, more the merrier, and finally some flour for binding. Before I work on the chickpeas any further, I'm going to make a spice mix for my falafels. So here is some coriander seed powder. I'm going to take a teaspoon of it, a teaspoon of cumin seed powder, a teaspoon of salt, and these 3 are the essentials, but you can go ahead and spike it up like I am. So to this I'm going to add half a teaspoon of hot paprika and a dash of black pepper. So this recipe is for 2 cups of soaked chickpeas, and I'm going to measure it out. So what I love about falafels is that it is completely processed in a food processor, and all that I have to do is skin my onions. Yes, I know, I did say just skin your onions, but I do want to be kinder to my food processor. Now if your food processor is any bigger than what I have, you can go ahead and process everything, your chickpeas, your onions, and your spices all together. But being honest to my reality, I'm going to work on the aromatics first, and then am I going to work on the chickpeas. Don't worry, it's all going to come together eventually, isn't it? Now when it comes to your chickpeas, you want them to retain some character, some bite, some texture. So when you do process them in your food processor, process them to a point where they remain granular or coarse, like a coarse corn meal. If you make it too smooth, it's going to taste extremely starchy. Also, adding the spice mix now or later doesn't matter, because we're going to bring everything together when we add our flour. Finally, I'm going to process my last batch of chickpeas, and as I said earlier, if you have a bigger food processor, your life is so much easier. Here, I'm going to bring all my ingredients together and begin adding my flour for binding. How much flour to add completely depends on how much moisture your chickpeas have retained and how much moisture was in your onion. It should be done though in about 3 to 4 tablespoons. The easiest way, of course, is to go in with a couple of tablespoons in the beginning and then go a tablespoon at a time until your mixture barely comes together. Do not add too much flour, if not your falafels are going to lose out on their texture. Now, I'm going to make these into small patties. You could also make them into balls, say the size of a golf ball. But really, the size of the patty you're looking for completely depends on you. A secret I could share is that these make excellent burger patties. So what is handy about falafels is that they store really well. So you could make this ahead of time, place it in your fridge and use it later in the day, or even freeze them and use it over a week. When it comes to cooking falafels, you have a couple of options. You could definitely deep fry them, or you could pan fry them like I am. To pan fry them, you need a pan with an inch of oil at a medium-high heat. So here I'm going to simply place them in the hot oil until I get a deep golden brown crust. Once achieved, turn them over and wait for the same result. So I will recommend pan frying over deep frying because the crust you get after pan frying is just so much more crunchy. Now I'm going to check the bottom of my falafel. Oh, that is perfect. Yeah, that is gorgeous. Time to plate, guys. I'm going to serve my falafel with some hummus. And yes, hummus is the next recipe. So I'm gonna give myself a generous portion of hummus. And to add that shebang, let me show you a quick trick. Smoothen out your hummus and make a small sort of a trench and drizzle your hummus with some olive oil. Take a fork, dab it in some paprika and leave an impression on your hummus. Not only does it add that element of swag, but it also adds good flavor. Now all that's left is to place your falafel on your hummus and service please. So yeah, that is how you make falafels. It's really easy to make. And before I leave, I want to tell you one of my favorite ways of using it. So I like to make something called a falafel burger. So you need 2 burger buns and you make a nice big falafel patty, layer it with some hummus and some salsa on top. The salsa cuts off the richness of the falafel and the hummus. It is amazing. Do try it. And if you like this episode, like, share and subscribe.